everyone. It's Whitney, and I want to welcome you to Ladies Takeover Empowerment Podcast, where we're all about helping you to succeed and become the very best version of yourself. So, on tonight, somebody say, on tonight, we have an amazing couple that is joining us for season 7, part 2, relationship edition, episode 4. And I'm super excited to have this couple. I have been admiring them from afar. And so it's exciting to be able to have them on tonight. So please, everyone, welcome with me, Bishop and Lady Demery. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well, thank you.
We're doing fine. Good to be here with you, Dr. Curry.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know both of you are extremely busy. So I count it an honor to have you both here on tonight. So we're not going to waste a lot of time. Let's just jump right on in there. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, how long you've been married, where you live, if you have any children, all that good stuff.
Go ahead, baby.
All right. No, you go ahead.
Okay, so we've been married for 28 years. We've known each other for 33 years. We're high school sweethearts.
34.
34. Is it 34?
This
okay.
year is 34.
I'm going to think that she's a mathematician. Oh, well, it is because okay. All right. So anyway, so we have 3 children. Our oldest is 26. Our middle child is 23. Our oldest is Anaya. The middle child is James, which is 23. And Autumn is our 15-year-old, soon to be 16. We also have a son-in-law, Jordan, and we have a new grandbaby, Adonai.
Yes.
So we're excited, and spiritual children. I also include them. Yep.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Marlboro. We've been here in Upper Marlboro for 23 years. We actually moved here a couple of days after our son was born.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So then you've seen the area transition and change dramatically, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yes. We're actually native. I'm sorry. Oh, we're actually native.
No, go ahead.
We're native Washingtonians, though.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. So then what schools did you go to?
Actually, I went to my elementary school was Shepherd Elementary. Then I went to Paul. And then my mother had this grand idea that she wanted to purchase a house in Largo, Maryland. So I went to Largo High School.
Really?
Yeah, I graduated from Largo High School. Yeah, go ahead.
That's not the one.
No, she said what high school? What would you say?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I went to Tacoma Elementary from kindergarten to the 8th grade. Then I went to Calvin Coolidge High School. And so I lived in Tacoma Park. And her grandmother actually lived about 5 minutes driving from my grandparents. And I could actually walk there in about 20.
So that's how we met.
Really? I was just about to say, so how did you meet then?
Well,
go ahead,
how we met was interesting because I had a good friend of mine who actually had lost his grandfather. And after the service, me and my other good friend, he was at my house and he said, well, I'm going to see my girlfriend. He's like, will you go over there with me? So I was like, no, I'm not going to be a third wheel. He was like, no, you can go see. You can go see. I was talking to a girl across the street. He said, you can go see her. So I said, all right. So got myself together, went over and walked with him. He stopped at his girlfriend's house and I kept going. Went to visit the young lady, but she wasn't home. I came back to his girlfriend's house and I saw her on the porch.
Really?
That's how we met. He had been telling me he wanted me to meet her, but I didn't believe him. And so when I saw her, I had a feeling that I never had before.
Really?
And so I was just kind. I was just kind to her. She was kind to me. You know, she had a boyfriend. I had a girlfriend. So we just left it there. I was like, you want some candy? So I gave her some little Jolly Ranchers, right? And but I never experienced anything like that when I met a female. I'd never had that feeling before. And so it was something about her, not just her pretty face, but there was something about her presence that really touched my heart. I was like, I've never felt like this before. So, you know, like I say, she had a boyfriend, I had a girlfriend. So we respected that. We respected relationships. And so, of course, she was at Largo at the time. I was in the 11th grade at Coolidge. And about a couple weeks later, I saw who her boyfriend was. I was like,
don't do that.
I was like, what? No, I'm just kidding. So
that's funny.
A couple weeks later,
it was a couple of months.
A couple of months later, the girl and I broke up, and my friend who wanted to introduce me to her, he was at my house, and I said, "How is the twin doing?" He was like, "Well, her and her boyfriend broke up." I said, "Oh yeah." I said, well, give her my number. And a couple of weeks went by, and she didn't call me. And one day, I called my friend at her best friend's house, and she answered the phone. And so I was like, I asked for her friend. I said, "Can I speak to Ava?" She said, "You don't mean Torrance?" I said, "No, well, he doesn't live there. So let me call for somebody who lives there first." And so she got smart with me off break, you know what I mean? So I should have known then it was going to be a challenge. And so I said, did Torrance give you my number? She was like, "Yeah." I said, "Why you ain't call me?" So she's like, "I was going to call you." So I said, "All right." So I think like maybe the next couple of days, I remember it was a Saturday in July.
You have a good memory. Huh?
It was, Saturday in July, nearly close to the day we got married, because I remember it was a couple of weeks after the 4th of July. And so it was a Saturday. I called, and I don't know what happened. I called. We talked by phone. Yeah. And I end up going over to see her.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
then, baby, this is the long version, this is the short version. And then we had our first babe, you can this is I mean, he's very detailed when it comes to that. So then we went
that's great though.
It's my first date, on our first date, and we've been loving each other since. How about that, baby?
That's good.
Okay. That's so sweet. That's beautiful. Most people can't tell you all those details of how they met and all of that. So that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So let's get into some nitty-gritty stuff. You talked about being married for 28 years. Is that what you said?
It'll be 29 this year.
Be 29
this year. My husband and I have only been married 19 years. So, and we too were high school sweethearts. So I understand that connection, being with a person for that long amount of time. So tell me, how important is communication in your marriage? And did it always start out being important? Did you guys always communicate? How important is communication for you two?
Communication is very important. And because I've always been the extroverted one from our relationship, I've always been very wordy. So I've never been one not to have effective communication, whether it's nonverbal or verbal communication. So it's very important. And what was the other question? Oh, yes, it's always been like this. Actually, the same woman that he married is the same woman. I evolved, in my thinking, of course, because I'm 50. I was 21 when I married him. However, the same extroverted, opinionated young lady that he married 29 years ago, I'm actually that same person. So communication is very important. And as you know, when you have been together so long, your rhythm is so in sync that often you don't even have to give language to what you're feeling. Your partner knows, because this is my best friend, right? He's not just my husband. He's my best friend. And so whenever there is, things that we may need to discuss that I may be apprehensive about, the marriage title goes here and the best friend supersedes that. So we've always
like that.
Yeah. So we've always had good communication.
Always.
Because we can read each other very well. Because when I'm looking at him, I'm not only looking at the 51-year-old, I'm looking at that 17-year-old that I'm looking at, right, husband? Yeah. And you're looking at who? That 16-year-old? That 16-year-old. Yeah. So it was like love at first sight. So there's a level of chemistry that we have one another, that even if we don't say it verbally, our body language speaks. And so I think that's the way we communicate.
Yeah. We've never had a problem with communication.
Yeah.
That's always been a high priority.
Mm-hmm.
And even in moments when it may have been broken, I think because we wanted to communicate to each other, we made that a priority.
Yeah.
And whatever the issue was, we would talk about it and get through it. So it's always been important. And that has to be one of the key components of a successful, not only marriage, but relationship.
Yeah.
I think, first of all, in order for you to relate, you got to communicate. So
exactly.
So it's paramount and it's a priority. And it's always been with us. We've always had good communication, always. And I'm not just saying that.
Great.
We really, God has really blessed us to be able to communicate. And even, we catch on the nonverbal cues.
Yes.
It's just been, that's how it's been. It's been good.
If I stop
that's
talking,
really good.
Yeah, and I know
he
if
already knows something not right.
Oh,
if she stops talking, there's something wrong.
I told him I'm processing. Give me a moment to process. If I stop talking, he knows something's.
No, but that's so true. I think probably in any marriage, sometimes you have to be very mindful of that because when you have situations and scenarios and maybe a breakdown in communication, you have to give the other space to come to where you are. Because what I had to learn was that sometimes when she was ready to talk, I was not ready. So I had to say, because I'm not there yet. Right. And so give me a moment. And so, because I want to communicate, give me a time where I can do it and do it right.
Yeah.
That's really good. I remember I've always been vocal. My husband would probably say that I am difficult is probably one of the words that he would use. But I know that when we would get into our challenges and it would be like something that we needed to talk about, and Bishop, you said that you would say, I'm not ready to talk right now. He would say those similar types of things, and I would press the issue because I felt like we needed to talk about it now. I didn't want to wait, or if time passed by, then it was a sign that I was saying that everything was okay when it really wasn't okay. So it took me a very long time to understand, to acknowledge that he needed space and not just force the issue, because what would end up happening is that I'd force it. I'd keep like picking with him on purpose, causing more problems, causing us not to talk as well, not to communicate as well. And now we're dealing with other issues rather than what we was initially trying to talk about. So help some people that are listening, if they are having challenges communicating, what is some advice that you would give them if they're having challenges?
I do have, and I don't know, this is something that I really believe that everyone should have counseling. Licensed counseling, marriage counseling, because there are things that are discussed when you're a licensed counselor that you unpack the narrative of those that you're going to share space with. And so back to my husband and I came from a very vocal family, right? So he comes from a family that's not as vocal as not. And so we understood that coming into the marriage, we had different ways of being, different ways of existing, right? Different ways of communicating. And so I would say to couples to honor your partner's narrative. Honor that you are bringing two people, perhaps with two not similar experiences, into one place, attempting for it to cohabitate and coexist. And so I think you have to understand in marriage that you are not only married the adult person, you are marrying the child. And so the way that person was raised, the way that person was taught to communicate, the way that person engages life perhaps is different from yours. It's not wrong, it's just different. And that's what you have to say and honor and celebrate that this person communicates differently. So I would say that if a couple's thinking about becoming married, or if they're married and they're having challenges, to seek professional marriage counseling. Because there are different modalities that are introduced that perhaps you won't get that outside of that context, to teach people how to communicate, because what one may be saying and what the other is interpreting may be two different experiences based on what you brought into the relationship.
Absolutely.
So what he may be saying and what I may be processing may be two different things, right? So
absolutely,
you have to just be aware of one another's narratives. Be aware that you're bringing two different ways of being, perhaps two different paradigms, two different lenses to one relationship. And, eventually you may see that you're seeing it similar, you're just expressing it differently. So the way I may express my love may be different the way, but however, we still have a common goal. But the way I'm expressing it, based upon how I'm raised, based upon the context, based upon the women in my family, how they taught me to engage, all of that, you are bringing that into a marital space. And you have to, first of all, respect it, honor it, and celebrate it. One is not better than the other, it's just different. See, I don't like the language better. I like different, right? And so I think once you celebrate and honor your partner, because this is the one you decided you want to spend the rest of your life with. So celebrate who they are, honor who they are, and just learn one another's love language. And I think once you do that, that will make a successful marriage.
I love it.
If I could, no, just two things. I want to piggyback on something that she said. First, I think in communicating, you have to give space and grace. Give your partner space and grace. The other thing I want to piggyback on what she said, learning your partner's love language. And I think it should be a goal of every married person to be a student of your partner. Teach me how to love you.
I like that.
And as was First Peter or James, one of them I can't remember, talks about dwelling with your spouse according to knowledge. Yes. Not just the knowledge of them, but the knowledge of yourself. Yes. To make a personal assessment of you and your communication, because I want to be better. I mean, as a husband, I do have that prayer. Lord, help me to be a better husband, a better communicator. I don't know if you get any better. No, I'm just saying. That's my prayer. Okay, I'm just saying. Help me to be a better communicator. Help me to understand her better. And so, because I want to be able to communicate with her, I don't want our communication broken. So let me understand life through her lens. And let me communicate in that way, in that regard. And so that's my prayer. So I think being a student of your partner and knowing how they communicate, knowing their story, their narrative, their backstory will help you and see the why. This is why they communicate. This is their way of being. And so instead of trying to change them, adapt.
That's a really good. Let me tell you, when we first got married, let's just say maybe within the past 5 years, it's taken my husband a very long time to understand my love language. Okay. And I think there's a difference between how we show love and how we want to receive love. And sometimes people get those confused. And so if I'm telling you that my love language, how I like to receive love is quality time or words of affirmation, he instead would show me by giving me gifts. Okay. So our first Christmas together, we got married in October. So December, our first Christmas, he bought me a brand new car. And I'm sitting here like, what in the world is going on? And while it was nice, he felt like I didn't love him or I didn't appreciate him and how he was trying to show his love. And I kept saying, that's because I don't need all that. I don't need expensive gifts. I don't need any of those things. While it's nice, I could take it or leave it, because if money goes, I still want you. So the gifts don't matter to me, but that I had to learn that's how he wants to show his love. And it took him a very long time to just give me what I asked for. I will take a back rub. You know what I mean? I'll take watching a movie and not having to spend a whole lot of money. So I think that that's important, very, very important, to understand a person's love language, your spouse's love language. And like you said, to be a student of them. That's amazing. Very, very good. Let's talk about this, because Lady Demery, I'm going to go back. I started seeing your post and I wrote down something that you said. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. I should have pulled it up. because it was really, really good. Let's see. You said, hold on. It was a post that you said, and what's been happening recently is that you have been, or I've been catching you, make comments about being a pastor's wife
Yes.
or being first ladies.
Mhm.
So, and I've seen a lot of people commenting
Mhm.
under your thoughts or the things that you're saying on social media. So, one of the things
Mhm.
that I wrote down is that you said, if you mishandle the rib, you are mishandling the head. And I
Yes.
was like, you know what? You better come on here. So, just real quick, I know I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this,
That's okay.
but explain, what do you mean by that when you said that?
What I mean by that is that when you're in a marriage, you're one. So if you're mishandling her, more than likely it's going to affect him.
Mm,
So it would be in the best interest of the congregation and the parishioners to handle her with care, because there's two things that could happen. She can internalize it and blow up, or she can worry him to life about how people are managing her. So
come on.
if she's worrying him to life, I don't like to say death, worry him to life about how people are managed, then he can't focus on his assignment, the kingdom
Yeah.
assignment, because he has to make sure she's good. Because his
Yeah.
first assignment is the family. So if
Mm-hmm.
you are handling her with care, and people don't understand, the wife is the great manager, whether people
Mm,
want to recognize it or not. A lot of times, wives
mm,
manage the relationship between her husband and the congregation. But because she doesn't
mm,
give language to it, they're not aware of her influence. But because
mm.
women engage relationships different, and most churches are predominantly made of women, we
Right.
understand women on a different level.
Right.
So to mishandle her, you essentially causing unnecessary challenges for him, because now he
Mm,
has to make sure she is well when she and their relationship is well. However, the context is not hands on her like she should. So now he's got to, kind of navigate that in a way where she feels okay about the position, and so if
yeah.
you're handling, she's a part of him. She's
Yeah.
a part of him. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes people like to separate the two. But in
Yeah.
reality, when you become one and when you're in a healthy marriage, whatever affects my husband affects me. And whatever
Yes.
affects me affects my husband. And so if you
Yes.
don't treat them both fairly, I didn't say the same, because you can't always treat people the same. I understand that,
True.
right? Because we all
True.
show up differently in spaces. However, treat them both fairly, then they won't have strife in their marriage, and they can focus on the kingdom assignment together, because she is
Mm-hmm.
bringing great gifts and talents and whatever else to the space as well. But if you're causing strife with her, you're causing her unnecessary stress,
Yeah.
she cannot be her healed version that first her husband needs, nor that the context needs. So I hope
Absolutely.
I explained that.
Unless their intention is that they want to cause conflict. And that
Right.
is their intent.
Yeah. But then you know what? Sometimes I believe I always got a different perspective. Sometimes I really believe, and he'll tell you that I'm always coming with a different perspective, right? Perhaps. Sometimes I believe that people's intent is not to be harmful. I'm gonna tell you why.
Really?
Yes, I believe, and that's the way I live my life. And I'm gonna tell you why. I have to live my life like that, because if I live my life thinking that people's intent was impure, it will become weighty on me. So I always
Mm,
go with this: their intent, whether it was or not, was to be pure. That's the way I have to live my life, whether it was or not. I can't be concerned about what their intent was. However, the way I'm interpreting this experience, that it was pure. So therefore,
that's
I'm
good.
going to engage you like your intent was pure, because I understand that people. I always just talk about this with my husband, that 1 out of 4 women, say most, because most of the churches are predominantly women, are survivors of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right? So 1 out of 4 are
Mm-hmm.
survivors of trauma.
Right.
Therefore, I understand that trauma shows up differently based upon
Yeah.
who it is. And so, where someone that may not have a broad perspective like me may perceive that the person is trying to wedge, some type of division between a husband and wife, where it may be
Mm-hmm.
something else. That's where discernment comes in, and that's when you're really taking a look at what's really going on here. So that's what I decided to do. I decided to think, even a lot of and I've even had my friends tell me that I'm very naive. I've been told, yeah, you're no, I'm not naive. I'm very aware what's going on, but I choose how I engage that experience. It's not that I'm not aware. I choose how I'm going to engage. Yeah. Because if I think everybody's intent is impure, then I will engage them in that way, and that energy has to go somewhere. Where's it going to go? It may go into my body, or it may go in my body and may make me unwell, or it may go into how I engage my family, right? Or people that are close to me. So I determine how I'm going to interpret that experience. So I believe so. That's really. So you see, I'm wordy, right? So that's
really but it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So did you want to add anything, Bishop?
No. She said it all.
Well, I'll lead it into this point. Y'all are so cute. I love it. I'll bring it into this point then.
Sure.
Because I realized a long time ago that I'm probably more cynical than I am positive. And it's just so please pray for me. Please pray for me, because I want to be just like you when I grow up.
But I want to tell you this. Let me tell you the reason why I'm like this, because I'm in the clinical program. So I have to say that I have an edge. So it changed my paradigm. Right. Gotcha. And by me learning about different theories and different modalities, which are the approaches, I'm able to engage differently. I compartmentalize my experiences, but that's only because I've been in this clinical program, which has helped me to have a broader perspective about people and how they experience life and how I experience life. So that's why, to be quite honest with you, I'm always like, I'm trying to give information as far as leading ladies, because I know I have an advantage because I'm in the class. I'm in a classroom setting. I'm learning these things. So everything that I'm learning, I'm trying to help other people that will probably never even think about becoming a clinician. However, that doesn't mean she doesn't have to be that doesn't mean she has to be an unwell leading lady. So that's So what I'm saying, give yourself grace, because the reason why I'm like this is because I've been in an academic setting. Give yourself grace, because I've been in an academic setting that has taught me to think of life from a therapeutic lens. My husband looks at life from more of a theological lens. I'm more therapeutic. Gotcha. And I'm going to say, for example, when we do marriage counseling, you know how the scripture, what's the one that says, give yourself to your husband? What's the one about? The one that we always, I said, wait a minute, baby. It may be trauma there. The one we always do marriage counseling about giving yourself to your husband. Oh my gosh, baby, you quote it all the time. That's it is.
First Corinthians 7.
Yeah, that's it.
Defraud ye not one another, when Paul is talking about intimacy.
Right.
Yes.
So I always say, wait a minute. There may be trauma there. We got it. So I look at life. So I look at life from a therapeutic perspective, where he's more theological. You know, he's more solution focused. He don't get he does care, but he's more like, this is the problem. How are we gonna solve it? Me, I'm psychodynamic. I'm gonna go back to your childhood. Where did you leave you? What's the root?
Gotcha.
Let's figure out what happened there, right? To kind of shape your lens and your paradigm. I know that's not what you asked for, but I'm just saying, go ahead, baby.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I did some cognitive behavior therapy, just so that, because what I tend to do is I will make up a whole scenario in my mind, because I'm very logical. So if something is not adding up or things don't make sense, I'm trying to understand how all of these events happen. So I will make up my own story and tell myself that this story is true. It is fact. I have no basis. It's just what I have decided. So I have learned that that is not always the best way to handle things. And so it's so important that you are able to decipher what's real and what's not real, what's in your mind, and and the only way for that to be able to happen is for you to communicate through the difficult moments. So my question for you both is how do you handle conflict? because a lot of times in marriage and in ministry, there is conflict, whether it's from internal or from outside sources that are attempting to cause conflict. How do you two handle that?
You want to start, baby? You want me to start?
No, just start off.
If it's important enough, I discuss it. If not, I usually don't. If it's important enough, and I think the older you get, you realize that some conversations is this going to really affect, our marriage? No, I'm not. Is this? I mean, is it really that important? At 50 years old, is it really that important for me? Now, regarding things that are important, I have no problem talking to my husband. Like I said, he's my best friend. I have no problem at all. I probably talk about stuff you probably don't want to talk about sometimes, right? But like so I don't think that it's challenging for us when we engage conflict, And if I do have something I need to say that perhaps that I may think what I'll do is I'll really make sure my spirit is right, because of course your partner can't hear you when you're being accusatory,
right?
They cannot hear you, right? And so I make sure that I'm in a calm space. I might get up, light my incense, my candles, listen to my morning prayer, whatever I need to do to get into that space where my husband can hear me. Because as you can tell, I'm louder than my husband. I'm very demonstrative in how I communicate. He's not like that. So I know sometimes I have to bring it in so he can know that he's not going to interpret it as me being aggressive. I don't know. Do you ever interpret it being aggressive, or you just think I'm
sometimes?
Okay.
And then what do you do? How do you handle it?
Assertive. Well, assertive.
Yeah,
assertive. Not
aggressive.
That word.
I know for me, if there is a conflict, and we don't have too many, but when we do, I think for me, what I've learned to do is to ask myself the question and be real with myself. Is she right? Because I think sometimes as men, we always want to be right, but it's really not about who's right. It's about what's right.
Gotcha.
And so I have to take time to process what she said, consider where she's coming from, and then ask myself the question, is she right? And then I have to be okay with that. If I say, okay, well, she's right. If I feel very strongly about something, then I'm going to say it, and we can talk about it. I think the great blessing is that we're never beyond conversation.
No.
Good.
We'll never be on conversation. So if there is a conflict or something we disagree on, we talk about it. She shares her perspective and I share mine.
Good.
And then we do what I want to do.
We do what we want to do. That.
No, she missed that. I said then we do what I want to do.
No, we don't. We do what I want to do. Most of the time I'm right.
That is funny. That's funny. Well, tell me this. How do you all think that each other have made you better?
You want me to start, baby? You want to start?
Go ahead.
He's made me more structured. I am not the most structured person in the world. In my mind, and I tell people, I think that's why I decided to pursue to be a therapist. I work good in crisis. I work very well in crisis. But I've also convinced myself that I need everything to be disarray for me to function, what is not true. I've convinced myself of that narrative, right? And so my husband's he's more organized than me. He's more structured. I can have a vision, but he's the one that helps me to execute it. I have a very, very vivid imagination.
Okay.
And so he keeps me grounded. He's very, say for example, I'm doing some women's men. She's like, okay, all right. No, he said, all right, boo, what's your budget? Yeah, I'm just, that you're trying to accomplish, right? So I think what he does, he keeps me structured. He keeps me organized. I'm not the most organized. I don't necessarily do well in environments that tell me what I should and should not do, right? But sometimes you do have to adhere to some rules. I'm just very self-aware. So sometimes you have to adhere to some rules and guidelines, right? And so I think my husband helps me to kind of bring it in. He brings me in a lot. He has the ability, but he's able to do that because I trust him. I trust his judgment, right? And the only reason why he can bring me in and he can say, okay, LaShawn, because I trust his and I trust him with me. I trust him with me. And so he has that powerful voice in my life to say, okay, LaShawn, I see what you're trying to do, but let's, we gotta put some things on paper. That's what he does, because a lot of things stays here for me. But what
Gotcha.
he'll help me to be a little bit more structured. And he's also told, like I said, I've come from a very vocal family. So
Mm-hmm.
he's taught me to not always respond. And that's just even with being in the program. But because he was the only child, he was more introverted than I was. He's more introverted because I have an identical twin sister, which we shared everything. So I was always very vocal. So he did teach me sometimes to, you know, you don't have to have an opinion. You know, you can have an opinion, but however, let's discuss the opinion when it's just the two of us. So that's what age, you know what I'm saying? That's what age, that's what being in the program, and that's what being married to a man who was an introvert. He taught me how to be silent. And I came from a very vocal family, right, husband? Don't you think? Very vocal, predominantly women. So, you know, we all have our opinions. So I think he's taught me not to, in addition to life, right? And being in this program has taught me you don't always have to give voice to your opinion. And if you do, a safe space and do it where people will know that your intent is not impure. So
okay.
Okay.
Bishop.
My turn.
Yes.
She's really taught me how to process things before I make a move. Because me, I'm, you know, I want to get things done. And she said, no, you need to think about that before you do that. And she's really, really made me better in slowing down and thinking about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And so that has really helped me. It really has helped me that you need to process that. You need to think a little more about that before you make that move. And so I think that's made me a better man, a better leader, because she really helped me to slow down and process things before I move forward with it. So, yeah.
And I also get
great.
Okay. Thank you.
What'd you say?
I said I gave you
a wider perspective
on things.
Yeah. And he said, okay.
That is the key to a successful marriage. Okay. Yep. That's what you
need.
Words of affirmation. Thank you, husband. You have a fun.
Oh my goodness. That is so funny. I hate when I'm talking to my husband and he just gives me an okay. And I'm just running off. I'm just talking. And he'll just say okay. Or he'll say yep. And I'm like, was you listening? You wasn't listening to anything I said, just to kind of shut me down and get me to be quiet. So I have learned to be quiet because that is not something that was on my side of the street. My family was very, very vocal, and it was only 4 of us.
Okay.
So we were extremely vocal. My parents allowed me to express my feelings, my emotions, if I was upset, if there was something that I did not like, and then including other people. So I was a PK kid. And so growing up and seeing my dad pastor, it caused me to be even more vocal in situations because you feel like your parents are being taken advantage of. Or you see people leaving and coming and your parents are putting they're all into ministry. So you get frustrated. So I developed I don't care. I'm going to say what I want to say because nobody cares about how they make our family feel. So that was my persona. That was what I took on with everyone, whether they deserved it or not, which caused me to be very, very vocal. However, it's not always the best thing. And it took me a very long time to learn that, especially once my father transitioned the ministry over to my husband and I. Being a first lady, I was like, oh man, this is difficult. This is tough to find a happy medium of what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Everything can't be said. Some things we say we're saying it in love, and that's not even our intent. So it's being so careful because I would say something to my husband or different people, and then I would say that that's what I meant. I meant what I said, but if I apologize, I'm only apologizing for how it made you feel, not for what I said, because I meant what I said, you know? So it took me a long time to stop and think and process what I'm saying because everything you think does not have to come out of your mouth. But it took me a long time to learn that lesson right there. And I think that it has definitely helped our marriage because of that. Because some things are just like you said, it has to do with how you were raised, how you were brought up, different thought patterns, and some stuff doesn't even matter. You have to learn how to let it just roll off your brain. It doesn't matter. It's not needed to be said. And then you want to know what's even more scary? Then we have a child, we have two boys, and my youngest is just like me. I'm like, oh, just like me. I mean, he just runs his mouth. Yap, 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 yap. Runs his mouth. And so I'm like, Lord Jesus, what did I do? But so let's see. We talked about how you handle conflict. Let's talk about this. What quality do you value most? You kind of said how your spouse made you better, but what specific quality in your spouse do you value most and why?
You want to start with Ms. Other?
Where you start?
I value, I honor his strength. I think he has a brilliant mind. Brilliant. I honor how he takes such good care of his family. We've always been a priority, right? He started pastoring. What year you started pastoring? 2013?
13.
I've never, ever felt neglected in my marriage.
Wow.
And I know that I'm fortunate in that. I've never felt that my husband put the church before me. I've never felt that he put the church before our children, before our marriage. And that is not a common testament. So
No,
and I'm happily married, to my husband. I honor how he is the same person in the pulpit that he is in his home. So I honor him for who he is in both places. He's not one person at the church and one person at the home, right? And so what else? I celebrate how he affirms me. When I tell you this man makes me feel like I can walk on water.
Oh,
walk. I can have in my life, I can have several voices. However, my husband said, boy, I'm telling you, I think I can do,
Yes.
So his ability or the capacity to affirm me in so many different ways. So he's been doing this since I was 16 years old. I'm 50. So what was the question again? Because I don't ramble.
You got carried away talking about how amazing he is.
Yes, is a quality being that you're an excellent cook? Is that a quality? Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm gonna talk about that because this is my 5 minutes and I get to say whatever I want to. So anyway, he's a great chef. He takes such good care of me. I am a non-driver. I don't drive. Yeah, a lot of people I don't drive. My husband has taken me everywhere since I was since we've been dating, right? Was you got your license about 17, babe? You about 17 you got your license? Or 18?
17.
Okay. He has driven me wherever I've ever wanted to go, and he's never told me no. He has never told me no. He's never made me feel like I was a burden to him, right? He's always made me feel safe. He is my most safest place. He's my most vulnerable place. So I think I adore that about you, that you make me feel safe. And also he is a protector. He had to be a protector with the mouth I had. You know what I'm saying? You need to listen. I couldn't marry no soft man. I had him, I couldn't listen.
Come on.
I couldn't marry no soft man because I got too much mouth. But I've done a lot. Right? So yes, those are the qualities that I admire about him and his ability to manage the church context and manage his family in such a way that we both feel that we're important. That takes some level of brilliance.
Yeah.
To manage your home and the church context where each feels just as important as the other.
Yes.
So
yes, absolutely. Bishop.
I admire her articulation. I always have, and her expression of herself. One of the things, like I say, when I first met her, there was a special connection. I knew that. But to actually hear her articulate her writings, her poems, because she's always been, I mean, she's a great communicator. The way that she communicates and makes me feel as her husband, I mean, those sentiments that she shared, I have the same sentiments. She affirms me and she loves me the way that I need to be loved. And she makes me believe that I can do anything.
You can.
And she supports me. And so I love the way she articulates, the way that she speaks. I always have.
That's sexy to your husband.
See,
Babe, you can say sexy. We married.
Right. It's okay.
It's sexy.
All right. It's sexy.
Yes.
But also, another quality that she has is that she continues to evolve and grow. She is constantly learning, and she gives me a lot of work because I have to not only manage that, but also I got to stay on my game. You know what I mean? Because she's ever learning, and that's a great thing. I mean, she's been in school since I've known her. No, that's not a bad good thing. That's a good thing. That says a lot about your wanting to expand your mind, your way of being, and so that's always been attractive to me. And so it's so many things. The way that she loves our children and cares for our new grandchild, and the way that she manages people. Certainly has touched my heart and continue to touch my heart. So yeah, this is my girl right here.
Yes,
That's awesome.
Thank you for taking me to school for all those years and picking me up.
I'm trying to tell you. Listen. I'm in school. I just finished my doctorate, but I was in school and kept going to school from place to place to place because I didn't want to pay back no student loans. That was my reason. I was like,
Lord,
we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going until I can't go no more. So yeah, I didn't hit the end of the road here. So but yeah, yes, you're right. I have 2 of them.
Okay.
So I don't need any more.
Okay.
I'm good.
You good?
Good, but you said something, Bishop, that was important. You said that that she's keeping you. I don't know exactly how you said it, but the way that I took it is that she's keeping you on your toes. You're always seeing how to take care of her. And so explain to the husbands or men who are looking to be married, how do you assess taking care of your wife? How do you handle her so that you don't mishandle her?
That is a very good question. How do I handle her so I don't mishandle her? Good God Almighty. And I think that is, and that's a very good question, but I think it's a very simple answer. I handle her with love. And because she is my rib, she is my wife. You know, I've already figured out that how much of myself am I willing to give up to be with her? You know what I mean? I understand that I just don't have a body around me. I have a companion. You know what I mean? Good. Like Adam, he had bodies around him, but he was still by himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There is a certain, and I think as I get older, you know, of course, we're over the 50 mark now.
No, you're over 50.
I just turned 51. 50. Where you're older than 50.
No, I just turned 50.
Technically.
50 in 3 weeks.
Okay.
Right.
No, but what I have learned, and you know, not that I guess maybe now I'm just maybe paying more attention. Is that there is a certain comfort level that I experience being around her. You know what I mean? That I can't get from anybody else. I know that this is the one that God has. I'm so glad that I found my one. So a man that find a wife, find a good thing, and have obtained favor from the Lord. So
Yes.
how do you men, how do you handle your favor? And so
Come
I wanted her to
on.
be protected. I want her to be safe. I want her to be okay. And so I handle her with care. I handle her with care. And so yeah, that's it, because I love her.
That's a great answer. Great answer.
Your
Um,
husband, I,
huh?
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say you learned how to handle me like that because you had a great example, which was your grandfather.
Yes.
See,
Well,
you gotta
listen.
take
Yeah.
that into
Can I, if I could,
consideration.
real quick, like
Yeah.
if I could,
Yeah, yeah.
just 1 minute. I had a good teacher.
Mhm.
Okay, my father died when I was 11, and what I learned
Okay.
from my father, he was a great protector.
Mhm.
Like, he would fight you for mother. You know what I mean? So I got
Mm,
that piece. You know what I mean? I got that piece. But my grandfather was very nurturing to my grandfather. He was very patient with her.
Mhm.
And that's really where I learned it. He made sure that she was good.
Mhm.
I mean, even
mm.
when in his final moments and final days, when dementia had started to set in a little bit, and he was going through rehab.
Mhm.
He was trying to leave the rehab facility to get to my grandmother.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, that's the kind of
wow.
love that he had. And so
Mhm.
um, I believe that I received some of that. And so I get it from a great teacher.
Yeah.
When I say an amazing love story, my grandparents were married for 70 years. And
Wow.
um,
Mhm.
yeah, when they transitioned, they were married 70 years. And so to see the way that he loved her and the way that he took care of her was something that
Mhm.
I wanted to emulate. I wanted to do what he did for his family. And so that's where I
Mm.
get it from.
Mhm.
And then I love her. I think she's a great person
Thank
and
you.
deserves all the love that I can give.
Thank you.
That's great. That's how it should be, though. So, do
Yeah.
you think that you ever feel pressure? Do you feel the pressure of having to balance? Because Lady Demery said that you do a great job of balancing the ministry and her.
Hmm.
So, do you feel that pressure when it comes to having to choose at times, or not at all?
No, it's very, and that's another great question.
Mhm.
And a very good question. I don't feel the pressure when I say that, because I've made family a priority. And because I've seen it happen so much where family was not a priority. And so
Mm-hmm.
so I make family a priority, because, and as preachers and pastors, and it's not to take anything away from the congregation at all, but at the end of the day, what I've learned in watching my grandparents and how they serve, at the end of the day, when you don't have a microphone in your hand and you don't have a robe
Mm-hmm.
on, standing in the pulpit,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to deal with your family.
Mm-hmm.
So it's proper,
Mhm.
first of all, but then it's important that you make your family a priority, because at the end of the day, when nobody else is around, your family's going to be there. So your family
Absolutely.
relationships have to be a priority. And so
Absolutely.
I've never had that pressure, because I made that decision
Mhm.
from the start. That, and if I could just real quick, I think
Mhm.
because we do this thing so passionately, Dr. Curry, we do this
Mhm.
thing pastoring so passionately, and ministry, especially when you've been called to do something, and
Mhm.
you want to do it with your whole heart, and we do, and that's a good thing. Years ago, not too long after we moved out here in Upper Marlboro, I was at that time leading the men's ministry, and I literally was at church like all day Sunday. Monday nights was a prayer service or something like that. Officers meeting on Tuesday, you know, Wednesday service, and then doing outreach. And so, I hadn't even realized that I was away so much. And one day I was leaving out. Our oldest daughter was crying.
How old was she, though?
She was about 8 years
Mm.
old. She was about 8 years old. And I at that time I was like, they used to call it well, we call it now a minister in training, but they call it
Ah.
aspiring ministers back then.
Mhm.
I was on my
Mhm.
way out the door, and she started to cry. I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "You're always gone." And I said, "Oh my God."
Wow.
And that was one of them times we had to think about it. My 8-year-old daughter, is she right?
Mhm.
And I had to process it. Think about
Mhm.
it. You know what? She's right. And that literally, that moment changed how I engage church and family.
And what's interesting,
Wow.
what's interesting, I never felt neglected. Like he recalls that story. I don't, to be quite honest with you, like he recalls it, and I know about our oldest daughter saying that, but I've never felt neglected in our marriage.
No. Well, I think it was just and then how you managed the home.
Oh, see.
We always made sure, like if she was in school, I had the kids locked down, and if I was at church, she managed things. But for my baby girl, her daddy was out a lot, and so that helped me to make the necessary changes that I needed to at that time to make family a priority. If you talk to our daughter right now, she doesn't have those stories that my parents were not there. My parents were there, and so we made that a priority because I've learned that at the end of the day, when you don't have a mic and you're not preaching and you're not pastoring, your family's going to have to be there with you, and so those relationships have to be paramount. They have to be a priority.
And
absolutely.
And when he first started pastoring, I'm not a good actress, so I was not going to sit on the first row. And
she is a good actress.
Not with that, I was not going to be. Don't even try that. Actress. But no, I had already determined in my mind when he became pastor that I was not going to be a wife that sat. I'm serious. That was going to sit on the
right.
And I'm dying inside, and I'm experiencing. And what he's preaching is not lining up with how he's managing me at home. I had already decided that. So when he first became pastor, he came home and asked me. That's another thing I want to bring out, that when my grandfather decided that he was going to transition out and my husband was going to succeed him, my husband came home and asked me, what did I think about him pastoring? So he gave me a voice. So I've always had a voice in this journey, always. So I never felt neglected. I never felt minimized. I never felt voiceless in this journey of him being a pastor. I've always felt like I was a priority. Now, but I was not going to be, because I just wasn't going to be that wife that was sitting there watching him preach, and you can't. No, I was not going to do that. So
I feel you. I feel you. Let me tell you, that's one of the worst feelings. I told my husband a long time ago, you're not just my husband, you're my pastor. And so I have to be able to receive spiritual food and hear what God is saying from you. So if there are times when we may have had a disagreement or something, there's times when it's not even that big of a deal. I can recognize and I know that it's the enemy that is trying to block me from being able to hear what's the message and what's coming forward, because that's how I get fed spiritually. So I have to be able to hear. I have to be able to listen for my husband and listen intently, because at the time, once he gets up there on that pulpit, I'm another member just like everybody else. I need to be spiritually fed too. So it's very important for me that I'm able to hear what's being said over the pulpit and not just sitting there acting like everything is okay. Because that is one of the worst feelings ever, to act like it's all right and it's not all right.
It's unhealthy.
Not. It is. It's very unhealthy. And unfortunately, it's too many marriages in the body of Christ. And there probably should be some type of platform or something where we just talk to those who are in the body of Christ, those who are pastors in ministry or ministers, to talk to them. You guys would be great to talk to them, to start that conversation about what's healthy and what's not healthy, because it goes on so many times and people, like you said, are dying. They're dying.
And unfortunately, the Black church is therapy for a lot of us. And so we're not going to go and sit with the licensed therapist, right? That's just, and it's nothing wrong. The Black church was because that's the only thing we had access to be mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
Right.
So unfortunately, those that identify with our denominational location will not go sit with a therapist. So I think it's up to us that have healthy marriages to bring that to the space. So that's just
Absolutely. Were you going to add something, Bishop?
No,
Oh, okay.
I agree.
Okay. Well, I thank you guys. You guys have been absolutely amazing. This has been so good. You have given so much information that I know everyone who is listening or watching is has been blessed by this. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out. I have one last question. We're hitting our hour mark. So I have one last question for you. I'll let you guys answer as you see fit. But what advice do you give husbands and wives that desire for their marriage to last a lifetime?
Very simple. This is, and I do this almost in every session. This is the advice that I give: remain friends. Yeah. Because if you can remain friends, you can remain married. Yes. See, sometimes we're so much into wife and husband that we forget about friendship. Friendship supersedes titles.
Good.
Well, she's wife, she's my best friend. So I can talk to my best friend. I can share with my best friend what I'm going through. And and some people, they may have a good friend of the opposite sex. They always can go to them and talk to them about whatever they're going through. Hey, look, this is what I'm going through. They call them all the time. I feel like I can do that with her because she's my friend. So if you can remain friends, you can remain married. Friendship supersedes titles.
I like that.
And sometimes we get stuck on that. So yeah, friendship.
That's real good. You wanted to add anything, Lady Demery?
Yes, I wanted to say honor and celebrate the person that you're married to. Understand that the person you married is the person that you decided that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. And make an intentional choice daily to love that person. Even when you're triggered, even when you're upset, even when you don't understand them, be intentional with your love daily. And so I think that's what makes a successful, healthy marriage. Because at the end of the day, this is the person that I decided I want to spend my life with. And anything you cherish, you take good care of.
If you cherish
it, you take good care of it. And so I would say this, to be intentional with your love. However it shows up, be intentional with it daily. And to just love each other and to have conversations, to be open to being vulnerable with one another. And remember that the little girl in you and the little boy in him are still the same. They just evolved into adulthood. So to honor that in one another.
That's it. And continue to date each other.
Yeah, date each other. And you don't have to go out to a restaurant.
And, especially
because I'm a homebody. I'd rather stay home.
And if we're talking to believers, every conversation can't be about church.
No.
Right.
I have more in common. We should have said
right.
that. But an hour.
About church. Hey, listen.
You gotta do more than speak in tongues.
Absolutely. Amazing Grace is not gonna be it all the time. No. You know what I mean? Okay.
Mary,
right.
We say Mary. No.
Mary.
Right.
Mary.
Exactly. This has been phenomenal. I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. I hope you all did too. Thank you so much. You guys were absolutely amazing. So everyone, thank you for joining us. This has been Ladies Takeover Empowerment Podcast. This is episode 4, and we will see you next time. Don't forget to like, share, and follow us. Love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.